When I first heard about Sinners, I was just not interested at all. I was like, a horror movie about vampires set in the Old South? Nah, that just does not sound like something for me. But then the movie came out, and everybody fucking loved it. And that even feels like an understatement. I mean, people were acting like Christ had returned when this movie came out. It debuted with like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, an incredibly rare feat, apparently. And then when it fully came out, the audiences fucking loved it also, not just the critics. So I decided to give it a shot. And when I went in, I really did not go in thinking my expectations were gonna be met at all. But oh boy, was I fucking wrong. This movie lived fully up to those expectations set by audiences, and it 100% deserved all the praise that it was getting. And I think that experience is emblematic of the movie as a whole. On its face, it seems like just the kind of the simple narrative about like vampires and horror and stuff like that, but it actually has a lot of layers hidden right underneath the surface. For example, the movie may seem like it's kind of just a simplistic metaphor for white cultural vampirism. The movie kind of leans into that, but that's kind of just the surface. This film is also about like the removal of autonomy and kind of like this longing for freedom, both from like a racial perspective, but also from like a more interpersonal perspective as well. Just about every character in the movie is somehow affected by the removal of their autonomy and is longing for some kind of freedom. And what helps convey these themes is the excellent writing. Like I said, Coogler has had each character somehow affected by the removal of their autonomy and it's giving them this kind of longing for freedom. But what makes it interesting is that you get to see lots of different ways that characters handle that and the different approaches they take. And he also does this thing that I really like where he's constantly like setting small things up in the beginning very subtly, and then those lead to usually these big payoffs. Small lines here and there, and then later in the movie he'll be like,
Boom, you looking for this?
and these payoffs work both to add to the usual like hype moments in aura and stuff like that, but also to recontextualize parts of the movie in ways that play into the theme. For example, the movie opens in medias res, and a question is asked of the main character that at the moment you may not even realize is being asked. But when you rewatch the movie and you go back to it, you realize and you have more context for what is being asked of him, and specifically in ways that play into the themes, and certain parallels are made that I won't spoil but are very interesting and that I like quite a bit. Coogler also gives each character just so much personality through this excellent and very clever use of exposition and character interactions. Coogler will have characters interact in these ways that teach you both mostly about their relationships and don't really feel overbearing. It rarely feels like you're getting spoon-fed the information. It often feels very natural, and you learn just enough to understand how these characters relate to each other and what their dynamics are. The entire first half of the movie is just setting up of these dynamics and getting you used to these characters, who they are, and what their dynamics are. And beyond just the relationships between the characters, he also gives them a lot of very explicit motivations, and they always feel very driven and never feels like they're just being dragged along by the plot. Every character feels like they have a reason to be there and that they are moving their own way through the story. They're carving their own path. And it helps a lot that each character is played masterfully. Every member of the cast is just acting their ass off and brings so much personality to their role. But I think the standout for me is Michael B. Jordan. He plays the twins, Smoke and Stack, and he plays them so masterfully. He gives each of them these own little small differences. He acts them out both different. He does a great play on the dynamic of like the cool, calm, and collected, and like the fast talking one. You will legit forget that he's just one guy playing two characters. But that's not to say that the rest of the cast isn't also doing a phenomenal job. Unmi Mosaku and Haley Steinfeld are doing a great job playing their characters. They give them a lot of confidence and make them feel very driven in ways that makes them feel very compelling. And Miles Catton is giving an A-plus performance considering the fact that this is his first film. He just does an absolute phenomenal job. And the rest of the supporting cast also does a great job, giving their characters a lot of personality that makes them not just kind of blend into the background. And this film's composer, Ludwig Göransson, has done a fantastic job. Throughout the more grounded and normal parts of the film, primarily in the first half, It has these instrumental tracks that really immerse you in the setting and make you feel like you're in the 1930s South. But during the more fantastical and energetic parts of the film, he brings in this electric guitar that makes you feel like you're watching like a 1980s horror flick. And it really sets apart and sets a distinction between these two aspects of the film. And then, as these parts of the film meet and intertwine, you feel those instrumental tracks and this electric guitar kind of track start to intermingle and intertwine as those two parts of the film start to intermingle and intertwine. And the score's quality and storytelling goes hand in hand with the cinematography. During those more grounded parts of the film, Coogler uses these wide open shots to help bring the setting to life with the score and really immerse you even further into the setting. And he also uses a tighter aspect ratio to give it a more cinematic feeling and make it feel more grounded. And during those parts of the film that are more fantastical and are more energetic, with that electric guitar score, he switches to a much wider aspect ratio to really give the audience a better view of the action and what's going on, and further help distinct these two parts of the film. And I think the peak of the score and the cinematography working together is one particular long take that just left my jaw on the floor. It was genuinely one of the most unique and creative scenes I have ever seen, and it's truly a unique work of art. The only real flaw that I found in this film is that the action isn't the best. It's not bad by any means, but it's just more standard in its quality compared to the rest of the film. And when compared to the rest of the film, that kind of distinction is made more pronounced. Luckily, it's not a very big part of the film. The action is very minimal. And like I said, once again, it's not bad by any means. It's just mostly serviceable. So luckily, it doesn't really drag any of the rest of the film down with it. Now, with all that said, between the great storytelling, acting, score, implementation of themes, with just some serviceable action not quite being on par with the rest of the film, I have to give Sinners a 10 out of 10. It is a definite must watch.